Hello, welcome everyone to the Flyway Focus podcast. Today we have Dennis Norwood, also known as Candynuts, with us today. We're gonna cover be here 40 to 60 minutes or so. Hopefully we cover some topics that you're interested in. We're gonna start with learning a little bit about Candynuts himself, and then we're gonna segue into gambling, and then with a little time, maybe we'll finish up any discussion that we had from the previous community and social aspects. So, anyways, without further ado, welcome, Dennis.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Leonard. And we are going to be talking about gambling. I think as of right now, it's more of an introduction piece. I have a question for you since we are going to be talking about gambling.
Yeah, come at me.
We've met in Minot State, correct?
Correct.
Do you
Back in
remember ever gambling at Minot State?
man, Minot State and gambling. No, this was a pretty foreign enterprise. Kind of focused on drinking uh what the hell was it? Four Locos and things of that back in 2010 and trying to stay above water in class. So gambling as far as my career back then was non-existent, I would say. How about you?
Except except one instance, actually.
Let's
And
hear it.
this is going to tell you. I remember it was the UFC, and it was
Oh God.
specifically Cain Velasquez fighting Brock Lesnar. I told you about it. You wanted to get a piece on the action, so you gave me like $60 to use on my website that I gambled off of, and to basically be the proxy to place the bet for you. And I did, and because I kept harping on the idea that Cain Velasquez was a plus 175 underdog against Brock Lesnar, and I was hammering that to you. He ended up giving me $60 or whatever it was. The bet ended up winning because Velasquez annihilated him.
Right.
And I just remember going at Old Main, going to the ATM machine to get your first payout. So there's a gambling story for you. You
Oh,
actually did start at Minot State.
look at that. Yeah, this actually brings some laughs from the past. So I think it wasn't until 2014 when I definitely got heavy and gotten my biggest losses. And yeah, Brock Lesnar. I think Conor McGregor was starting to get. He wasn't big yet, but he was going to.
No.
Yeah. And Brock Lesnar, man, what a unit of a man. He apparently his daughter is the number one shot put college shot put female athlete in the
Wow.
U.S. collegiate system. So that's kind of funny. And God, what was it? I don't Brock Lesnar, what a entertainer. Like he was so funny. I remember one of his fights. I forget what it was, but he ended up winning and then he was ripping Bud Light. He's like, "I'm gonna go home and drink a nice cold Coors Light because Bud Light won't give me any
Yep.
money and then I'm gonna get
Yep.
on
Yep.
top of my wife." And I was just like,
Yep. That was great.
and he had some huge wins. I guess I'm just
He
gonna
did.
uh let's see, 'cause yeah, I mean, just what a story. South Dakota boy, so very regional to a lot of us. He was a championship wrestler, I think, at the U of M in Minnesota,
Yep.
and then he tried out for the Minnesota Vikings and just didn't cut it. And then what did he do? Did he get into wrestling right away or UFC? Let's see.
He got into wrestling first and then eventually tried to go on to Minnesota when he was a little bit older. And then when
Right,
that didn't work out, he tried MMA.
right, and he had some big wins. I don't what was his biggest signature win? Was it over Frank? I don't remember
Frank
his name.
Mir, he beat Randy Couture for the title and then
Yep,
defended against Frank Mir.
yep.
So
God,
he had a
what
couple of wins, yeah. And he
what
just got fed to, he didn't get a bunch of scrubs early on. He fought good fighters his entire tenure. He beat Shane Carwin,
yeah,
who, who,
jeez.
who was great back then. And then, yeah, the Cain Velasquez fight, though. I think this is where betting and gambling is going to get into because the casual fans, the casual money felt like it was more pronounced back then than it is now. Now the smart money's in. If that Cain Velasquez Brock Lesnar fight happened today and there was the same aura about both of them, there's no way Velasquez would have been a plus 175 underdog. I think the smart money would have had it Velasquez as the favorite.
Yeah, yeah. No, totally, and I'm ready to get into these topics, but let's finish the little bit more about yourself, whatever you want to tell us. I believe you was born in Texas, and then you ended up coming to Minot State in the year of 2010, and I think you were there for 3, 4 years. Is that correct?
That is correct. I think I left May of 2013. I went to Minot. I go, thinking I was going to get into the oil business and then realizing just 80-hour work weeks weren't going to be for me. And I ended up, I think it was, even forgot what I majored in, interdisciplinary studies or whatever BS it's basically you've been in college for about 7 years, hurry up and leave,
We need it.
essentially what it was. I
uh,
forgot what it was, something like that. I don't even know where my degree is.
It's a step above basket weaving or something
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. They were basically just like, "You've been here, you have all the credits. Come on, just get out of here. You've been
Kind
here
of
for
like a
too long."
Roger Herman. Slight
I
dig.
planned on
Slight dig.
staying longer. I planned on staying longer in Minot State. I was in the frat. One
Yep.
day, it was like on a Saturday, and I just felt old. I just didn't feel like partying that day, and I went, "This is it. This is the time I have to leave." It's
This
the only
is it.
time I went until I felt old, and I felt old, and I left. I would have kept going for as long as I could.
Mine at State was a great time, and so one funny thing, 2010 was probably the peak of mine at State's enrollment. I think this is kind of just general across most universities, but especially after the flood, that kind of like changes things. It takes a while to
Mm.
get back, but there was a lot of people at mine at State at the time. I mean, there still is, but I know it's down. I can Google that while you're speaking next or something. But yeah, so mine at State, we have it up here in the.
So you were there during the flood?
I was there during the flood, so yeah, so school 2010 to 2011, and then I decided to work as a land surveyor that summer. And that's the hardest I've ever worked. I was busy because like the oil boom was going on. We were, like there's all these housing developments that just did not exist at the time. And so I helped survey this and things of that nature. And so yeah, combined with the flood and the oil boom, it was a crazy time. But so
Didn't
I was the
your car get flooded in the flood?
Yeah, but that wasn't the flood. That was a just me being stupid. It was a heavy
You
rain.
trying to drive through a flood and he got stuck or something?
Yeah, yeah. So it was this bridge right here. So it's on the 6th Street, which is just a terrible um road. Or no, 16th, wasn't it? No, I think it is 6th Street. This is kind of like a main throughput if you don't want to go on the highway here. And so it was this bridge and it always floods. And I had my Buick or Pontiac Bonneville, and I thought I could tank it through, but instead, I'm pretty sure a bunch of water got into the air filter, and I actually had Roger Herman pull me up to this spot. So yeah, this was before it flooded, I'm pretty sure. And then so anyways, I'm sitting there, and we did get it fixed. It was okay, but it was not during the flood, and I ended up selling it for 500 bucks back
There you go.
4 or 5 years ago. It served its purpose. So.
Wow.
But yeah, mine at State here, we've got the dome, which was a big deal at the time. I think they actually wanted to turn it into like big enough for the to host football games, but probably an extra $5 million at the time, which was too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, here we have famous McCullough Hall. That was where
Ooh,
the freshman dorm was, Laura Manor. McCall. Man, we could go on forever, but fraternity here. So yeah, let's segue back to your experience, mine at State. I think one of these is the frat.
yeah.
This feels right. This looks a little
Yeah,
more
I believe it
unkempt.
was 6:15, yeah.
Yep. So you were at the frat. You were there for 5, 6 years, right? Um, and then you were just like, time to get out of here.
Yeah, like I said, I planned on staying for even longer. I planned on probably 2015, 2016, just super senior, super senior, super senior. I just woke up one day and I just felt old. And that was probably after like 2 straight nights of drinking.
Right.
and it was Saturday, and I just didn't have the ability to go again, and I went, "Oh, I think this is it." And it was about, like, 2 months before the semester ended, and I was like, "Alright, let me just file for graduation because the deadline was coming up." So, I didn't even plan on graduating, and then I did, because they said,
Right.
"Look, you already have more than enough hours." Like, you already have, I think I had, like, 20 hours above 128,
Okay.
which is the and I already had all the senior elect, like, you already have it, you just need to do it. I was like, okay." So I finally did it. But yeah, that was bad, and I didn't even show up to the graduation because I didn't even show up the last couple weeks because I went on a vacation to Thailand.
We love Thailand.
So yeah, that was fun too. That was kind of my graduation present to myself.
Okay. And now you're somewhere in California, right? You don't have to give us
Home
exact
Dale.
details. Palmdale,
That's
Palmdale,
right.
California. Sweet. Sweet. And how are you keeping busy? Are you doing the gambling topics? Are you just got a nice house at a low interest rate and cruising on by or
I don't know anything on the house. It used to be a former family house, so that's why I'm actually looking to move back to Texas because I work from home, and there's actually an office in Plano, Texas, and I want to move there because it's super nice and ritzy. But I also don't want to pay for the house
right? Expensive.
because you got to pay cash in Plano because they're going to take cash offers, and I don't want to finance a $600,000 house because that interest rate's going to just bone me.
Yep. Yep. You'll end
I
up
could
paying.
go to Fort Worth and just get a house for like 300, 340 or 350 and be fine, and I could just do that. Whether North Richland Hills, Bedford, Colleyville, that above Arlington, that area, I could easily, but I go, you know what? I'm just going to go swing big for Plano. There's an office where I work anyway there anyway, so I
Yeah.
could, um, move up the ladder there too.
Right. Right on. Right on. So, okay, cool. No, I think that's good. Let's segue into some gambling topics here. I know we briefly touched on the Brock Lesnar, and we could talk a lot. I know there's a few dedicated MMA fans in the group, but tell us about your experience with the state of gambling currently and how you kind of got into it, and what are some fun stories?
Can I start off with my Kurt Warner rant?
Let's do it. Let's hear about Kurt Warner.
So, the NFL is doing this responsible gambling ads, and they've been doing it for a few years now to encourage people to gamble responsibly. Okay, sure, fine. So Kurt Warner has this commercial, and you could probably see it on YouTube. But he's basically sitting there saying, "Hey, make sure to set your limits, never chase your losses, and only bet what you can afford to lose." To me, only bet what you can afford to lose is good. Everything else sucks. If nobody ever chased their losses, we wouldn't be inundated with all of these gambling commercials from DraftKings, from Caesar Sportsbook, from FanDuel, everything. The gambling industry is predicated on people chasing their losses. That's what it is, Kurt. Don't spit in my face and tell me it's raining. Gambling, chasing your losses is what gambling is all about. They're hoping you chase your losses.
Yes,
They all
100%.
Don't tell me to never chase your losses. We know that's not the case, and also we know we're going to do it. It's just, Kurt, they do not insult my intelligence. Just say, hey, I know you're going to chase your losses, but just only bet what you can afford to lose. That's the only advice should ever be given about gambling. Not never chase your losses. They're hoping you are.
Right.
Ah, that in his face.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's weird, like especially I find it funny to see my point of views grow and change over time, and gambling is definitely one of them. And I've talked with other people a little bit about this. It's just like, before when you gambled, you had to find some shady offshore site, or you had to like, do crypto coins or, PayPal. It was some pretty sketchy stuff. So I was like doing Fury fight picks when I was betting on the MMA and stuff like that. Bovada.lv was probably the biggest one at the time, and
Yeah.
just like, so like you could, it wasn't where you could get on your phone, hook up your bank account and click purchase, like it was there was a lot of friction is probably the best way to describe it,
Mhm.
so like, yes, you could gamble, but you're going to really have to seek it out, and people are going to gamble no matter what. It's just human nature. It's like you want to like, it's more fun to win money than earn it, per se. So it's just like that's how it is and how it's always going to be. But now with like apps such as DraftKings or FanDuel Sports or even Kalshi, which has kind of been my app of choice lately, and it's so easy to do this. And like, I think, and this is just me extrapolating a lot, but basically, I think there's a lot of people. I find it myself like, listen, I lost a lot of money back in 2014 or 2015. It was like 10 grand, not nothing. Like, that's a lot of, I'm pretty good with my money on everything else, but like, at the time I look back and I was like, why did I just throw away, $10,000? Like, it I did get some rush, not gonna lie, it was fun, but it's like, you see these big losses when you're betting on some random Miami Heat game is what did me in, and it's like, oh, I guess
Mm.
I guess it's over now, just like
Ouch.
because I was how do they say it? Chasing your losses, Kurt Warner.
Yes.
And so, yeah, there's just it. And the only good thing for me, because like now I feel like I've learned, like I still gamble. I like to play games of chance, but I'm not dumping, $500,000 into these apps. I guess currently, just to share or overshare, however you want to say it, Kalshi.com is my current game of choice, and I put in 250 for the Super Bowl, and of course I was a dummy and bet on the Chiefs, but
Oof.
or no, I
Yeah.
did win like $60 on the Eagles or whatever, but that it's never enough, so it's just like coming back, and then I lost a bunch. And like with Kalshi, the thing is, if you see your like think of it as like kind of owning a stock, it's not, it's a swaps market basically. But like, if I bet on, you know, Atlanta versus Washington, right? Pretend I have a big bet on Atlanta here, and then like Washington goes up by 10, like I can still cash out. Whereas at least with Bovada or other straight bets, you're locked in. You can't change. So like here, like
Right.
momentum training, it's like, oh God, I'm gonna lose. So then you cash out, but then Atlanta goes on a run and ends up winning, and then you just like really fuck yourself. So it's
I
it's
want
an
to say I want to say FanDuel and other places are starting to do live bets as well.
I believe it.
So I think you can actually do the same thing you do in Kalshi with FanDuel. I just don't have FanDuel because it's not legal yet.
Right. Right. So, yeah, I guess basically what my overall point is, like, I have fun. I feel like I do it responsibly, but these companies are making money off of people, and I think a lot of them are poor people. And that's another thing why this reform will not happen for some time is like, you don't want to tell people like, hey, you're too stupid, you should not be allowed to play. Kind of like with Robinhood
Correct.
and other stock trading apps like that, like, hey, like, there's a reason why we should make these things hard or less easy to access, but it's like, no, you're taking away my opportunity and stuff like that. And that's a really hard thing to understand or listen to, and people just are never going to. And it all relates back to the average voter, like voting against their interests.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
I let's get rid of that estate tax. Like,
Yeah.
if I ever have over $10 million, I don't want cent of that going to the government. It's like, well, this literally affects 20 people each year. So, like it's some minuscule amount,
Yep.
and it's just part of the American dream to think you're always going to make it big. So, yeah, there's my little tangent on that.
There we go. I know you would talk to me about the state of gambling as
Yes,
DraftKings and FanDuel. To me, the state of gambling, I kind of sum it up. There is a pervasiveness of the parlay bet that is inundated throughout gambling. It is now
100%.
basically based on parlays, and parlays are bad. They are just money losers. They are teases. And what I've noticed about parlays is these podcasts, these sports podcasts that kind of dabble into gambling, but not really. They
Right.
partner with these gambling companies. They're sponsored by, DraftKings, they're sponsored by whatever. And they have their own, content within their podcast that's centered around parlays. Hey, Barstool, we're gonna have this, Thursday parlay. It's gonna be, or, they're gonna call it whatever name you wanna call it. The sword fighting parlay, where we're gonna have Lamar Jackson over 80 rushing yards combined with Jaden Daniels over 2 touchdowns and Trevor Lawrence over 1.5 interceptions at plus 300. And they're enticing you to play the parlay. And it's not really just to try to win money. It's more of so you can just feel like you belong within that community. It's more of a community experience rather than an economic experience when it comes to these podcasts. They want you to feel like you're in on the action, even though you're just setting money on fire.
Right.
To me, parlays are basically meme coins. Fart
Yeah.
coin, jizz coin. They're just trying to pump and dump so they can just get you to throw away 10 to 15 bucks at a time. They're just money sinks.
Yep. Yeah, and I totally agree a lot of about all that. Like, if you're well, feeling like you're belonging, and this can like segue into the next topic as well, but like, especially with your online worlds, your physical connections are not as strong or even as numerous as they were like 20 years ago. So like you're saying, like, hey, I'm placing this bet. You could place a bet like that too. And then you feel like you're part of that group once again. So, and I know
Mhm.
like Dave Portnoy, Bill Simmons, who actually has a lot of good takes, but like they do post these
He
like
does the same thing. He
yep,
does the same thing.
right. And
They have their own contented based parlays where it's just 4 5 team teasers at plus 800 odds.
yep,
That's not landing.
right. And yeah, quick funny story. So this was a yeah, geez. So sometimes like if he's on a winning streak, he will like post a lot here. Um yeah. But anyways, there I read something funny, and once again, I'm not sure how true it is, but it was some guy who charges um what do you call it when someone pays for your bets again? I forget what it's called. But anyways, he runs a letter subscription, and he suggested like, pick 7 guys to hit a home run on the same day. So like $11 bet was going to be 100 grand or something like that. And then like 7 or 8, his followers must have done it and like beating the odds, it actually did like hit. So all these people won all this money, but then the next day DraftKings like released a addendum to their terms and services saying like if we think there's coordinated action between you know,
Oh,
different people, like we reserve the right not to pay out. And it's just like,
wow.
things are so stacked against you already. It's
Yep.
like, and then one other funny thing, I don't know if you heard about this yet or not, Dennis, but in the one big beautiful bill, there's actually they're changing the accounting on how gambling losses can be recorded. And so basically, um, you'll have to get into the weeds here, but basically, if you lose 400,000, but if you pay, win 400,000 back, you can actually only deduct up to 90% of your losses. So like pretend like, yeah, you have 100 grand, um, you lose it, but then you win 100 grand back. You can only claim losses for 90,000. So then even though you
Oof.
came out to net zero,
Net, yeah.
you will
Wow.
still owe tax on
10
that
grand
10
worth of
grand.
it.
So
Wow.
yeah, so like this other
But it's
guy.
big and beautiful. How can that be bad?
Right, right, right. It's too big not to fail is the problem. So,
Oh,
yeah, I'd have to find this other guy. He's on Call G too, but like it seems like a big deal. And like I said, once again, I'm kind of like against gambling. So if this like knocks some of the people or lure out of gambling, I guess that like helps my point. But it's also kind of like, well, that doesn't seem fair. So
yeah.
just funny stuff. Funny stuff.
I know to piggyback on my parlays,
Yeah.
and this is a lesson I've had to learn, and I still do parlays because I'm an idiot. But if you're going to parlay, you should parlay a two-step parlay maximum if you actually want to try to make money. 3 or more, you should just view it as buying a lottery ticket.
Yes.
Um, to give you just an example here, if you have a two-team parlay and you pick 2 teams that are both minus 200, so they're both 2 to 1 favorites,
Yep.
you have an implied probability of 44% chance of hitting
Yes.
or plus 125 odds, which, it's not bad. I can sit there and do that. I can justify it at times. If you add it to three negative, three minus 200 teams, that implied probability goes down to 28%. If you do it to five team parlay of five 2 to 1 favorites, your implied probability is 12 to 13%. What is a 12 to 13% implied probability? Let's look at it in terms of poker to comparison. If I go all in and you go all in pre flop, and I have a pair of tens, I have pocket tens, while you have a four and an eight offsuit. Your four and eight offsuit has a 12% chance of beating my pocket tens.
Yep.
How confident are you that you're going to beat the pocket tens when you have a four eight off? You're not going to want to make that bet.
Right.
You're not going to want to make that bet. Why would you want to make that 5 team parlay?
Exactly.
Oh, hey, there we go. Oh, look at this.
Spot on. And yeah, the other thing too, so like, because yeah, the odds are terrible, and people like it takes a while for people to understand that too. But another thing the books will do is like, maybe, um, okay, say like it is this bad, you have a 13% chance of hitting on these five, but then they'll actually only pay you out like 9% of what you should be. Well, you know, okay, so
They'll shave the odds
they'll
so
shave the
that,
odds. Yeah.
and
Yep.
then you'll have a true implied probability, which is probably going to be less than what your calculated probability is.
Yes. Yes, 100%.
So you'll
100%.
get screwed even more. They're going to try to just pay as little off as they can. So again, all the more reason to just make a one, just a single bet or a 2 team parlay at most. 3 or more just doesn't justify it. And that's a lesson I've had to learn. I'm still learning. Last year, I thought I did pretty good. I was doing so well last year at tennis because on Bet Now, there was no such thing as parlay betting for tennis matches. And I was always mad about it. This year on the Australian Open and French Open, I was wondering why I was losing. I wasn't doing as well. Well, they allowed parlays. And of course, me, I got sucked in. Oh, I've been so successful betting tennis, so might as well just parlay because I'm untouchable.
Right.
And I just kept getting hammered. I'm like, what's going on? And actually, as we talk right now, Wimbledon's going on,
Yes.
and I'm back to my single bets, and I am doing much better.
Yep. Pedro Martinez. Interesting. Yes. Yeah, all good points. I just yeah, parlays are tough. And like yeah, so I just to summarize our points, I think it's like a little too ubiquitous. They're definitely preying on these people who can't afford and chase their losses. It is fun to gamble. You have to do it responsibly, and by that, like only betting what you are able to lose, if
And
that's
I
a fair.
understand parlays are fun. The rush is great. I remember hitting a 10 fight parlay on a UFC card. I bet 10 on 10 fighters. I picked 10. I only bet $1.
Yep.
All 10 won, and I won 1,500 off a $1 bet. Trust me, the rush is incredible. I get it. But if you are going to do a parlay like that, think of it as a lottery ticket and pay and bet lottery ticket prices. $5 here, two, $3. Don't put $200 on a 5 team parlay. I mean, unless you're a millionaire, just stuff like that.
Right. Right. Definitely. And another thing, like how human psychology works, like I would have to find the article exactly, but basically there was like a change 4 or 5 years ago to actually make it harder to win the lottery. Like so, now jackpots can get up to like $1 billion, which is crazy. But like, before it was like 300 million. And so the odds, were in 1 in, you know, 20 million or something like that. But people like the worse the odds are, but the bigger chance of the payout, the more they'll actually play that. Cause like, apparently $10 million is not good enough. We want that, you know, $300 million payout and things of that nature. So it's funny how the mind works. And this is something that's like very tough to regulate away, I think, especially now that the
Mhm.
genie's kind of been opened out of the bottle. And so, like obviously I feel like we should take care of the poor people. And that's another thing. Nobody thinks they have a problem, like that's just how it is. Like I don't think I have a problem, but definitely admit I don't think I mean, I lost 10 grand. That's nothing you want to like be happy about.
Right,
But like I learned my lesson in theory, and now I think I'm doing okay. And sometimes you need to hit not rock bottom, but you need to take lumps in order to learn. So
right.
yeah. So
That's
I
a good
guess
parlay.
yeah. So I guess
Um,
or go ahead.
yeah, I had one last about gambling, and this is more about Kalshi as it pertains to the future, especially when it comes to NFL betting. I'm really interested in how the NFL betting is going to work, the live betting. I want to know whether or not the live bets change, and if they actually mirror win probability, or are they changing just because, oh hey, the Colts scored a touchdown, let me just throw all my money there. Is it just super reactionary? Is there any rhyme or reason, or is it actually just predicated on win probability? Is it smart money, or is it casual money that's driving the betting odds? That's what I kind of want to know.
Okay, so if I have been trying to work on a project to like basically check the odds for, these sports games and then compare it to what the current market is in Kalshi. And I will say for sports currently it is um pretty much dead even. So here I changed it to American odds. So we'll just take a quick look here. Um and so Kalshi it's not able to do spread bets at this time, so it's all straight money line. So 115 and 105. So here, if I go back and if I click, this should show American odds. So this is actually at minus 116 and minus 107. So that's actually not
Okay.
too far off. I mean, it's actually slightly worse for both, which is a little ironic because here, this is the VIG is already included, right? They're both
Okay.
negative. And then like here, um, like anything you win, you will actually have to pay um whether it's like a 2 cent fee on top of that. So here now it's minus 111. This would be the time
Yeah.
to buy, and you can kind of set that. But and my plan is in theory, once I like better at my job and doing these things, like okay, like currently here, this is the sports book. What are the odds? Like here's this API that actually pulls the game odds from different sports books and stuff. And so like then I can pull that in real time and then I could compare it to all games here and then be like, okay, listen, the Twins are at minus 115. If they get down to minus 100, maybe that's the time to pull the trigger, but you're not
Mhm.
sure how many contracts are available at that time. There's a lot of volume and
True.
stuff like that. So, and I think it's definitely a little trickier with the real-time odds too. So this is something I want to do, I'm interested in, but it's going to take time. So like if you can find ways to exploit
Okay,
this,
so that game hasn't even started yet. Okay.
no, but it does start in and so something else I've been doing with my 200 bucks is just trying to get the feel for how things go because back when the passage of the one big beautiful bill, there was you could bet on which senators were going to say yes, and that market was like mispriced. Definitely, there's a couple Twitter people that I know that are like dead on it, and I actually made 500 bucks off of JD Vance becoming vice president before I lost it all, of course. So it's just like finding the right person, finding the right sources, like
Finding the edge.
finding the alpha. So let's look at one that's Milwaukee versus New York Mets currently, uh, which the Mets have been on a huge slide of late as well. Okay, so here 140 and minus 165. We'll click where is it? And yeah, so you could actually have a slight edge here. And if you were like super hardcore about it, you could definitely arbitrage your way out of it, or
Right.
if you bet between different sports books. But something I've thought about too, especially with the new gambling law, because like it's fun to win, like traders do make money. And my one goal is like, I know it's right to work at my job. My wife and I both have good jobs. We have kids, house, and all that. But you want to find that trampoline, like that opportunity where you can
Mhm.
turn $1,000 into $100,000. And so I don't know what that is yet. I also am very aware that I'm probably not going to find that. But like, if I could somehow design a program to do this in a orderly fashion, because like another thing is like dumb people are born every minute, and especially with gambling getting more and more prominent, like I think there's a way where I can find it where I can make money. So here you can see too, comparing to the other one, I like there's a lot more volume in this Milwaukee versus New York game compared to so here we have 140 million, if that's correct. Wow, the site has really taken off. But if we go to a less well-known game, yeah, Minnesota versus Miami, um, we only have okay, it must be across all markets.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah,
But
be
like
the same for all of them.
right. And another thing why the NFL will be so interesting is because there's just going to be so much money involved because Kalshi
Mhm.
is legal. This is the first season of the NFL. And so this would be something good to get cooked up by then. And this is another thing, like, with a lot of gambling, like big sports like the Super Bowl or big playoff games, sometimes there's enough stupid money that the smart money cannot absorb it all. And so it's just you got to know when the opportunity is, or like policy what I'm going to do rather than betting with my heart, which I do too much. Um, just kind of know like what are the important dates. Like I know there's a Virginia election um, coming up, or like the New York election. Like there's going to be a lot of sways, a lot of you want that volume because you want to be able to get in and out. Whereas a sports book, they'll take whatever you have, whereas here you have to match someone, and there's going to be people panicking and everything. So you just gotta be able to know when to hold and know when to fold and all that good stuff. So
I am wondering how the real time in game betting for NFL how it's going to swing now.
right, right, yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know if there's going to
it's
be enough.
almost like I would want to see the win probability models, how that affects. Are people looking at the win probability models as they're gambling, as they're changing their bets, or as they're buying, as they're selling,
Right.
or does it seem to be more just a mishmash of just people's feelings and stuff like that?
Yeah, and it definitely there is definitely like discrepancies between them. So let me just go the Brewers. Because like ESPN, and this would be as if you trust ESPN's model, right? So here we go to this former game recap. You go to the game cast here. This is the win probability. So it would be interesting to see because like Kalshi, basically once it's done, it's over, right? So then they don't save
Right.
all the so like for today, like you can see and match like, okay, how does the win probability line up here compared to what the market is saying for
Mhm.
a baseball game? So if you have some time this afternoon, I recommend checking it out because
Yeah.
like, yeah, it'd be fun to make some money. Obviously, you want to see that edge there because at this point, like I said, I've been playing with this 250 bucks since February. I am exactly less than where I am now. So, or like, so my time is better spent putting money and time and effort into my career or like
Right.
spending it with my family. But, like, I guess
Literally anything else than what you're currently doing in
anything
past.
else, so it's like all I can say is over the last decade of my gambling is I know how to not lose money quickly. Like I
Right.
don't know how to make it. I don't know how to like build myself up, but I know what habits will lead to ruin, which would be like if you're watching this game in real time or a football game and you're trying to like sell and time it, like it's just not going to work. So it'll bite you in the ass.
Yep. And do you have any NFL strategies that you're going to plan on this year? Is it just going to be all Kalshi?
Yeah, it's gonna be I don't want to mess in like FanDuel. I think that's still generally illegal in Minnesota. You can do some player
Right.
prop bets, but like I said, I know my time is better suited elsewhere, but
Yep.
on game day if I'm watching the Vikings, I think what I'll do and the hope and like I have to hold myself accountable is just checking Kalshi and compare it to what the current odds are on like a sports book or average it, and if the difference is like say minus 150 compared to minus 100 on Kelshi, like then I'll take the Kelshi bet. And
Correct.
so that's my plan. I don't know.
Uh,
Yeah, we'll see how it pays off, but if I could somehow automate this and like just create a spreadsheet to be like, okay, check this market, I think that would work out really well and be a good use of my time. And if anything, I can share it to.
yeah, that would be good. I think what I'm thinking of is having one big bet, probably about 250 to 300 on one game that I really like, probably around minus 50 to about minus 200 odds. That gives me a 60 to 67% implied probability
Yep.
that I feel comfortable about.
Right.
Maybe 253, maybe more, and then have a couple of Kalshi bets while, like you were saying, doing it with your models and stuff like that. About two or three $100 bets on single games, and then have one two-team parlay, and then a couple of lottery ticket, or as I like to call them, goof parlays,
Yep.
just to keep things fun because it does. I don't want it to be a job, but you kind of almost have to make it a job if you want to actually win. It
Yeah.
comes back down to making it a social experience versus an economic experience. I'd like for it to be both, but it does seem like if you actually want to make money, you have to make it more of just your like a job,
Yeah. 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 You'd have to be grinding
which
it
is
out.
also tough.
Yeah. Because it's fun to drink and watch games, and then you lose your discipline. Or
Exactly.
and then like that one to three beer mark is probably the sweet spot, because if you don't drink any, then you're just a stick in the mud, and
Oof.
you got to unlock that other chamber of your mind. So, okay, we're sitting at the 40-minute mark here, or 42-minute
Oof.
mark.
Yeah,
Let's
that's why I went gambling first. I knew we were gonna. I knew I was gonna go on.
all right, let's just one other topic I had. It was current gambling or no, what do you see things changing for like Gen Z going forward? Like, how do you, what do you see changing in the next couple of years in regard to gambling? Because I think it's just gonna keep expanding,
Correct. Nothing to add. Yep. It's here.
right?
If it wasn't going to be gambling, it was going to be replaced with something else.
Yes,
Gambling just happened to take its place, and it's not going to let go anytime soon.
right, right. So, okay, well, let's switch on to the next topic for community and social aspects, and then we'll do a little wrap up. So, yeah, what I really appreciate your spirited discussion in the server channel. I think it's been good fun and people like to get their little comments in and stuff. So I'm curious, what would you like to point out holes in my argument, which I do appreciate, but what is your
I,
views on the ideal community and like social involvement level? So go ahead.
uh, I poke hole. I'm the guy that poke holes. I'm more of a doom and gloomer, always have been. So it just from that perspective. In fact, as a senior, we each had senior quotes in high school,
Yeah.
and my senior quote was, "I cannot live if I cannot complain." And I haven't changed that one iota almost almost 20 years later,
Right.
a couple of years away from that. And yeah, it's just it's almost a state of catharsis for me crapping on everything constantly. I'm always going to have a negative viewpoint on just about everything. And it's almost kind of reverse psychology because I can go to bed at night feeling kind of better about myself. Because I really am not that bad off. You're definitely not that bad off. I think everyone in our Discord channel we're all doing okay compared to the average experience, I would say.
Yeah.
Would that be correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's we don't know everyone's social, what goes on all the
Mhm.
time in their house, but yeah, I think for the most part, everybody's doing okay.
But I tend to be heavy-handed just at a principle and just crap on just about everything I can. It's almost like I said, makes me feel good to do it as well. But in terms of community, you seem to be on it. I kind of like to poke you because I still don't really know what exactly you want out of community and social involvement. And are you focusing more on just men or society at large? I'm still trying to pin
Okay,
you down, so to speak.
gotcha. I think my view is, once again, it's always changing. I'm definitely a Democrat and like moderate, but like, so I want people to have freedom to. It's such a loaded question. You say you're a Democrat,
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, immediately you want to turn your kids into transgenders or something. It's like, well, no, actually. So, and I think, like maybe my view is like, we should let transgender people, um, have their own lives. I think, and I read something on Twitter. It's like, okay, before when it was like gay and lesbian people, like what finally switched, it took a long time for that to happen, but it's like, listen, you're not impeding on my lifestyle per se, right? It's like you can still be a guy and love another guy. It doesn't really affect me. But where with transgender gets in, and an interesting case is like the Penn State swimmer, transgender man to female, and then all of a sudden she's breaking all of these records. And then like the argument I've heard is like, do you want your daughter competing against someone who is like biologically, I don't know if superior is the right word, but given much more advantages, like that's a huge change. It's a huge ask, and it's like so maybe like when you're just gay and lesbian, you're not imposing on other people as much. But like with transgender, it's like this is something that actually does affect people whether you want. And I mean that it's a definitely a hotly debated topic, but it definitely I've heard it from liberals who have that question as well. Um, but yeah, that was kind of a tangent. So, anyways, back to does that make sense, or what do you think about that?
I suppose I think about Neanderthals
Okay,
when it comes to this. It's too bad they died out. It's too bad all the Homo erectus, Homo, not sapiens, but other early hominids. It's too bad they died out because there probably wouldn't have been any issues with LGBT throughout society.
oh, okay,
Do you know if people have Neanderthal DNA currently?
quite a few,
So that means their ancestors were having sex with another species.
right?
If they'd ever died off and we would have just had, well, two guys or two women having sex feels weird. Well, you think that's weird? At least they were the same species. It
True,
wasn't back then, so that's what
true,
I always do the Neanderthal model here.
right,
Like we could have totally if they would have survived, a lot of this wouldn't have really have ever have happened.
right. Okay, no, that's an interesting view I hadn't thought of. Another thing I think of too is like I think sometimes society just kind of goes in cycles, and like kind of like the strong men create good times create weak men create hard times create strong men. I think the same thing can be said per se with like societal norms. So like the book I'm reading, like so you had the war, times were tough, so you had like these heavy, not like heavy parenting, but it was definitely things were more structured. Like yeah, you didn't have a lot of free choice. Like you or the book that I read, like your whole family was at the manufacturing shop. And so you had to be on your best behavior because if you were a shithead, then that kind of puts your family at jeopardy too. And so then the boomers, that's how they became rebels. And then you have the swinging 60s and groovy 70s and whatnot. And then you have like, I don't know, Gen X who want to be like and once again, this is just my interpretation, but boomers are having fun, sex everywhere, and then Gen X is like, well, let's do the grunge scene and stuff like that. And then you have like millennials who kind of like have like I don't know, um the stock financial crisis. There's just a lot of things that change. So you'll go from these periods of where things are more liberal, more conservative, and then it's just kind of like like a sine wave is what I'm trying to think. And like
Mm.
obviously there's been a lot of changes over your like, if you think about Greece, like it was very common for men to have sex with other men. Like, women were kind of seen like dogs in a sense. So it's like,
It really
but
were.
yeah. So obviously things like change, and Greece is kind of a unique example. But there's just been all these cultures where things kind of change because, like, like I mentioned before, like every generation thinks the next upcoming generation is lazy and like not hardworking, and then it just always changes. So it's just natural to rebel against what is the current status quo. So I've heard things about how like anti-Semitism is like becoming more in vogue, and there's just these cycles,
Ugh.
and it's like I wish we could regulate these things away, but it's like that's just you can only take care of what your is in your house per se, and go from there. So, um, all right, I'll try to wrap it up. So I think what I was talking about was like there's just a lot of different point of views. I don't know what's right or wrong, but I think like, you know, I think it's important to be at least close with your families. Like you don't like I grew up on a farm with my grandma living right next door, which was great, but I know it drove my mom a little nuts that time to have your mother-in-law, you know, 200 feet away, basically. And so, like, we all want space. We all have family who drives us nuts, but they're family at the end of the day. So you should try to take care of them. And whether that extends to neighbors, because like now we can move so freely from back and forth. And like I mentioned before, I get along with my neighbors, but like the one I tried inviting him like, "Hey, let's have a fire or do something." And like, he'll come over, but I never get a invite back. And I'm like, "Am I the asshole here or what's going on? Is this Minnesota nice?" I just,
Yeah,
like your 30s, it's a tough time to make friends. You're not
yeah.
like in school, you're not in a melting pot like college. You just so I think it's important to like not become a huge cynic and a recluse. It's important to get out and do things, whether it's like getting wasted at the bar or sporting events, like watching the Timberwolves. They've been good for the second time in their entire existence, and it's been a lot of fun to go to the games and get excited. Same thing with the NFL and blah blah blah. So yeah, I guess I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't know what's right or wrong, but I think like not trying to shunt away family because they're toxic, like live and learn with flaws. So yeah, there's
You
that.
t you talk about your neighbor, I guess I have a question about male friendship
Okay.
because there was an article that you had about it.
Yes.
Um, do you feel like there are issues that are suggesting that there is an alienation among men having friendships? Is there a it do do it does, is there an alienation among men having friends, and are there suggestions to reverse the alienation among friends among
So
men making friends?
so this guy's Aaron Wren. He's a conservative, lives in Indiana, and his story is he was married and then got divorced. He doesn't really talk about it too much, but like so he actually covers these topics quite a bit. And one thing to help answer the one part of the question is like he said like once you get married, like all of a sudden you become friends with your wife's friends, husbands more so than it's like kind of a matter of control. Like I guess back in the 40s or before, like the father just kind of had total control. Like the woman was just like expected to stay home and take care of the kids. So then the father worked. He could go to the bar after. He could like do more social activities, blah, 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 because the woman just didn't have any rights to vote or do much of anything other than be a homemaker. And now it's kind of flipped a lot, which, not necessary, not for the worse, I don't think. But like, if there's ever a divorce, like the wife kind of gets all the friends, and if the because I have a lot of good friends from college that I get along with and still visit with quite a bit, but we don't always share like what actually is going on. And I think part of that is just from men being like, hey, we got to be tough and like, put feelings aside and blah, blah, blah. So that, and if you never open up, you just, you're not able to develop those deeper connections. So that's why I think a lot of friends still come from high school or college when you were able to do that. But once you hit like, marriage, you just don't have those things unless you're in like, I don't know, a country club golfing with seeing guys every week. Because if you only run into each other once every 6 months, you're just not going to be able to develop that. So,
So agree or disagree, if you were to see males' social contacts, if you were to examine their social contacts closely, it would be found that their social contacts were really just restricted to their wives, their children, and perhaps their children's families.
I'll say more true than false. How's that for an answer?
More true than false. This is a report, an article that I found called Male Friendship and Intimacy Across the Lifespans from the journal Family Relations, dated July 1980,
Okay.
meaning these issues are not new. Male friendship intimacy issues have not been a problem for just, it's not a new generation thing. This has been a thing that's been going on for years, for decades. And all I'm saying is if we would have done, if there was a way to reverse this alienation process, we probably would have done it by now,
Okay.
because 1980 is almost what, 45 years, and who knows how many more, how it was before then. I just feel like it's going to be tougher if it, I mean, it would have already have been done.
Okay.
I think we're just sort of set
Okay.
for whatever reasons.
Okay.
That's sort of my take.
Okay. No, I think that's a good take.
I
I
just
think
feel like it sounds good to try to get involved, but how do we do it? And then we all just kind of shrug our shoulders, gamble, go on YouTube, play video games, watch porn without having to leave the house.
right.
It just it's just tougher.
Yeah.
I think we just, perhaps we're just, I don't know if we're content. We at least pretend we're content enough with it to not want to improve on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Me, I feel like I've always been the exception to that rule. I actually enjoy that. I
That's who.
actually enjoy doing whatever I want to do. I've always felt that way, and I've always felt like I was the exception to the rule. Many guys, I think, feel like they're the exception of the rule, but I don't think there are that many that actually are the exception of the rule. That's why there is an issue.
Okay. No,
That's
I
kind of
agree
how
with that. No, I think that's really good.
I just
So,
don't know what, it's just the way it is. It's
right.
almost as if we're hardwired into thinking that, and I don't know how you just wire yourself differently. I know this is anecdotally, but I went to a farmer's market today, and it was mainly women. I went to
Right.
some sip and stroll. I'm never going to go again, but 38 women, 3 guys, and the two of them were there because their wives were there.
Right.
I
Right.
went to the homemade kefir thing because I'm big into health, and it's this kefir workshop. If I'm even pronouncing it right, goat kefir or something. 12 people were there. I was the only guy. I mean, these community events, I mean, it's just 90%, 95% women. And every time I go to some event, I'm actually like cognizant how many guys are going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Not many.
Right.
And that's one thing I've been doing the last few months. I'm just like, wow, they're probably having fun, but, or they're probably watching porn, or they're probably gambling, stuff that I would be doing. But I just, I'm just looking and going, I've been noticing that for the last few months. It could be anecdotal, but I
Yeah,
just
no, I
don't
think
know.
that's a general takeaway. And another thing I read, because I'm trying not read all the time, is like, men are like high into risk taking activities per se. And
Mm,
we're able to get that from playing video games or like other online communities, gambling or things like that. Or if you're watching porn, like, it's like, well, I get off. I don't need to like go and like showcase my strength or worth to attract a mate. So it's like, so that's one theory, like the invention of internet and smartphones and stuff. It just, which is like somewhat good, like, because then one reason for wars or like can be like a lot of male unrest or unemployment. But like that kind of gives men something to do, but at the same time, it's like, well, then you just kind of neuter them in a sense. But
Right. Have you noticed like unemployment rates or underemployment rates are increasing?
yeah,
Military conscription is like at its highest. It's already met its quota for the year,
yeah,
and it's already 4 months beforehand. So just to piggyback on what you just said about war and stuff,
right,
military participation is now higher than it's been simply because of you know financial issues and stuff like that.
right, or your community per se.
Or at the community, correct?
So okay, no, this has been really good. We just hit an hour, so let's finish off. Like, what do you think about the poker league? You're the big winner 2 times. We're hoping to chop that, and if you have any thoughts or suggestions going forward.
Yeah, I don't really want to know if I want to play every time because, geez, if I want to just keep winning every time. The first time I played how I usually play, and very conservative, and I just felt like I missed so many opportunities. Second time I played, I was, let's just say, had more uh, liquid courage, I guess. I don't know. I was pretty bombed, and I just wanted to be the pot bully and just felt like I was going to win, and I did.
It definitely worked
It was
out for
pretty
you.
good. But I like the poker reviews though. I thought I was good. Turns out I was just lucky on that last one. I will say
Yeah,
that.
I think
Lord of
there's
Lord.
yeah, and I want to do another one there because there's some um previous matches that I want to recap too and just kind of share some knowledge. Like, I think I'm okay. Once again, I know I'm not good enough to like go to tournaments and like do well, but we did have 4 or 5 games from 2024 that I can review here, and I want to share just a little bit, like especially with the raising and calling, especially on bigger pots. I want to share some knowledge because I've read a couple books. Nate Silver, Andrew Brokos, he's got a big one as well. And I
Any
do
Phil
think
Hellmuth?
no Phil Hellmuth, he might get added to the rotation. But like no, this has been really good. I've actually created, I mentioned in the previous episode, a database for everyone's stats. So I'm trying to get that and
I
use
will
it to my
say about the
advantage.
poker tournament, this thing, it's making me want to go back into Poker Stars.
I
Yeah, I am getting more interested. I'm like, I need to go back to these. I used to do that all the time in college too.
Yeah, I think those are fun, but like especially anything online, I'm definitely very skeptical now because they have what's called like heads up
AI.
displays. Like you can, yeah, you can see like what are your odds of winning. Maybe they don't, the AI can't see what the other player has, but they can kind of like give you the percentages and like it's very easy to do. I know there's one for Poker Now for this
Mhm.
website, not to give people ideas,
Yeah.
but like there are options and yeah. So I think like this is fun because like it's granted, yes, there's been like $600 or larger amounts of money in the pot or on the table, but like still small potatoes compared to like online tournaments where it could be 10, 10 to 100,000, if not more. And then the incentive to cheat is just too high. So that's
Mhm.
what people do. So, but I would definitely participate at one point. So yeah, poker going forward, I think switching to like the tournament style will be a little more interesting too, because the optimal strategy in like cash games is just literally wait until you have pocket tens or better, and which is obviously what we're not doing. But with the tournament, it's like okay, you have to make your move at some point because you just might not get good cards for quite some time. So
Yeah. I know that's with Hold'em. That's why I actually played Omaha a lot because you start out with 4 cards and you can use 2 however you want.
Yep.
it incentivized playing, and you can't really ever fold hands. So the incentive is always to call, raise, and then see the flop.
Yep.
You have more opportunity of action. However, there's usually not really that many no limit hold'em Omahas because you can just go all in every hand because you can theoretically build your own hand pre-flop. So
Right.
that's why most of them are just pot limit.
Yep.
Just an FYI. But yeah,
Yep.
I'm scratching the itch to want to go back. So it's been good on that front, and I actually might start doing it.
Yeah. No, it can be a lot of fun. It has been. I would definitely play in a tournament, but I would know my limitations. And there is an
But
option for a
you
uh
can do cash games for like $10,
yeah,
$5, $7 on poker, and and if you win the tournament, you can still win thousands.
right.
So I mean, it's not like it's going to be a big financial. What I used to do is I used to just open up in 4 or 5 tournaments, have 5 different browsers open with 5 tournaments, and just do that.
Wow.
And
Hardcore.
you could just do that, and I think most people do that. And they have multiple screens. I actually I just had one, but really hardcore gamblers, they just have multiple screens, multiple tournaments. And
Yeah,
I'm
because
sure AI could probably do it now.
yeah, and I think that's how it works with professionals. Like you just got to go through so many hands. Like if you're good, you still might have to play $1,000 to, or yeah, 1,000 hands to make 30% profit if you're any good. So more
Mhm.
hands, the better. So
But yeah,
okay,
no, I like it. It's pretty interesting, and I think people enjoy it too. There
yeah,
are some bad beats, which are always entertaining. I will
right.
say that.
Yeah, I think you've had good hands too. I mean, I'm not trying to. I guess I am trying to take away a little bit of your aura. But like, I mean, sometimes you just get stuck on shit hands and like it kind of sucks. Like, so for example, last December, you know, here are my hands. Out of 66 hands, my best hand was an ace. My best hand was literally pocket threes, like
Wow.
ace queen offsuit. Like this was just brutal to sit through. And so you
Good
end up
lord.
and so like I played all these other crap hands and that's where I lost most of my money. So like that's
Wow.
also where this website is really interesting. So here's another one. Um and like here I
Have you
actually what's that
have you ever like been the top guy at a tournament?
that I've hosted or
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
I won it this year that you weren't here actually. So this was the my birthday night actually or the day
Oh
after and
wow.
so I did well there. But yeah, usually you have three guys that make money and then others who don't. So I have one that felt good because I didn't want to like keep hosting and not win. This is $10 a month for this Poker Plus, so I appreciate people throwing some money
I don't know.
my whole goal is to like win here so that I can fund this adventure of like hosting the games, doing these poker reviews and things like that. So um but yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I like to average one a month, maybe one every 2 months. During the summer, it can be a little tougher. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of the like common focal point too. Everyone knows me, but not everyone knows each other.
No. Yep.
But like I said, you actually know John Rush. Well, he's not playing poker, but John Rush went to school with me, and then also Carl and Levi and Jake Jornstedt and a few others. So I mean, there's a web of interconnectedness in all of it. So.
There we go.
So I hope it's going to keep going, and I'm excited for like a big end of year tournament once we get like 10, 10 contestants. I think my logic is like we'll take like if you take first place in a night, you automatically qualify, and then if you place high in second, then you also will qualify as well. So
Can you do more than 10?
yeah, so here you can actually host multi-table tournaments, but
Okay.
I think it would just be a little awkward with like two tables going once again, because I'm kind of the person that is in charge, I guess, and
True.
like running different. Because like I could do different voice channels, but then maybe I'd want to be more of a support role.
That's
So
true. Right.
so some
It's almost like you couldn't play. if that were the case.
Right, right. So yeah, something to think about. 10 seems like the right amount. It seems like I always have like 6 people register and then have to scramble to fill out the others. But it's been working, so I'll take
Can
it.
you get 10 people and 1 table is the maximum?
Yes, and
Okay.
I think you can play tables with 12, but it's I'm not sure if it lets me. Yeah, you can. This can get quite large. I know there's actually a Discord channel, so that might be worth getting into as well. Yeah, I'll show you some of the other configurations that I have here. So game players, game. See, I can set the blinds here. So after I can add another level. So after 20 minutes, maybe it goes to 20 and 30.
Are you gonna change the blind since it's gonna be a tournament rather
Yes.
than how it okay.
Yeah. So I posted a lot on the Facebook group channel, but I'll kind of rotate it here. But basically, we did do a couple tournaments in 2024 and they worked, but the blinds weren't raising fast enough because like 3 hours is probably the sweet spot. Nobody wants to be here for 4 hours.
Right.
Um, and so my goal is like I'll set the antes. So in a perfect world, we'd start at 9 p.m. Everyone would show up on time, which isn't going to happen. And like then the antes are a lot smaller. So pretend we're playing, $40 entry again. Maybe we do it like 20 and 40 cents to start, right? So then we'd switch and then it'd be 30, 40. And then another 20. And then maybe, once we hit that 1 hour mark, then it's like 40, 80, 20. And then my theory
Roughly
is
what
like at like 11:40, then you cut off the rebuys. And then I'd also do like a $10 or $20 chip add-on. So maybe if you pay $20, then you get $30 worth of chips. That's what I've seen.
okay.
So that way you get a little more money in the pot. But then my goal is like once the last hour hits, then because you don't know how much money is going to be put in initially,
No.
right? So once that ends, then it'd be like, okay, the blind is actually 1% of the total amount played or total amount of chips, right? And then the next 20 minutes, it's 2 and 4%, and then it'd be 4 and 8. So you can see how the blinds would get quite oppressive, if that makes
Mm,
sense. So yeah, just pretend like here's the first hour in theory. It's 40, 80. Then all of a sudden we do like 80 and then 160, like what we normally do. And then it'd be like 120 and 240. And in theory too, once again, hopefully more people are folding and not playing the shit hands like you actually are doing uh small blind or big blind defense and things like that.
mhm.
And then and then this would be the end of hour two, right? So then we'll just do like once again 140 and 280. But then the last hour is kind of when everything resets. So maybe there's like, 10,000 chips and, 1% of 10,000 is 1,000. And then all of a sudden you can see how things can wrap up very
There we
quickly.
go. Right.
So, so then
Yeah,
you're
that would be
incent
good.
yeah, so then you're incentivized to show up and play those early hands because like everyone's got a different view, but my view is like you should like not throw away your chips, but like take big bold bets to try and build up your stack in the initial game.
Agreed.
So
And then just bully them at the end.
yeah, bully, and then all and because like then once it gets to that last
'Cause that's
40
how it
minute,
really is.
it
I mean,
is.
it's real poker, so yeah.
Yeah, then all of a sudden you're betting, your blind's $40, which is like, okay, this is a lot.
Exactly.
So and then it just like keep doubling because like people have to go to bed. So
Yep.
that's my
That
theory.
makes sense.
I'd like to.
I like it. I like the increased odds. I like the change of odds. It definitely changes the gameplay.
Yeah, and then like I said, maybe if it'd be a $30 entry fee, you can rebuy in once, and then you can do a $20 for 3,000 chips or whatever. That way you kind of have a cap because I went in 160 this last time, which is the highest I've done. So
Dude.
yeah, I
Ugh.
and like everyone's different. Like I said, everyone's like doing decent, but at the same time, like losing $100 is $100. So
Yep.
So
And
cool. All
and you
right.
said and you said 10 was the max on this site?
10 is the
Ten.
max. I don't
Okay.
see anyway, because have you played with 12 people at a table before?
See, I think I've always just played multi-tables if that was the case, 'cause I
Right,
don't think I've, had more than 10 either now that I think about it.
right. So yeah, that seems like the standard. So yeah, maybe we could do a multi-table in the future, but for the end of year tournament, um, we'll probably just stick with 10.
The tournament of winners,
Tournament of winners.
essentially.
And I mean, I was guaranteed a spot anyways because I'm hosting, but
Yeah.
it's nice to win and at least earn it. So,
Yeah, exactly.
well, I think we're going to wrap up here, Dennis. We can keep talking afterwards, but anything else you'd like to say to the viewers?
Oh, this one's gonna blow up, I think. You know, you gotta really, like I said, a couple of jump cuts, maybe capitalize the a couple of words on the title, maybe to have it some provocative statements as well. You know, really get that engagement farm going.
Right, right. Yeah. We'll see in the future. Like I said, I'm just trying to build my abilities, get comfortable on camera. Like at work, I have to do some impromptu speeches, so I think that really helps and everything.
Oh, do
So,
you? Wow.
well, not like crazy, but I've done a couple, and I think that helped me land the job. So it's like, well, this is a guy that can speak on his feet. Not that it's well, but it like at least passable, and that's a important skill, I think. So.
True.
So, okay. All right. Well, I'm going to end it here. Thanks for coming, and we'll see y'all soon.